Have you ever noticed that the more desperately you try to hold on to something, the more it slips through your fingers, like trying to grasp water? The tighter you squeeze, the less you have. That's not a coincidence, you see. That's the universe trying to tell you something rather important. You know, it's quite amusing how seriously we take ourselves. This never ending delay of actually living. You know, it's pretty funny when you stop to consider it. We're all running after something we call the present moment, like it's some rare creature we need to trap in our mental nets. But being present isn't about catching anything, it's simply where we exist right now. The now isn't a place you travel to. It's not some unique condition that meditation experts reach after countless hours of training. It's what's unfolding. It's the only thing that's ever unfolding. It's this and this and this. Yet we have this odd tendency to view the present moment like it's just a narrow bridge between what happened and what's coming. Some kind of empty space that we zip through so fast we barely register it. We act like now is just the razor's edge dividing past from future, but that's not accurate. The now is more of a timeless depth rather than a passing instant. It's not a single pearl on a strand of time, it's the whole strand. It's not one picture in a movie, it's the entire cinema. When a young child is playing, she doesn't engage in play to accomplish something down the road. She doesn't think I'm playing right now so that later I can say I played. She's just fully engaged in playing. The act of playing is the whole point. But somehow when we get older, we lose sight of this basic reality. We begin treating the present like it's just a stepping stone to some future goal. And by doing that, we completely miss out on our actual lives. The now isn't hard to find at all. We are. We're the ones who keep drifting away from it, even though it consistently holds us close. Isn't it interesting how skilled we've gotten at dodging what's actually taking place right now? We've turned it into something like a craft, honestly. And the weird part is that nobody specifically taught us this behavior. We just absorbed it naturally. You see, from when we're very young, we're conditioned to focus our eyes on what's approaching. When you get older, after you complete your education, once you land that position, when you finally stop working, life turns into a chain of checkpoints that we're forever moving toward but never fully experiencing. And then there's how we deal with the past, that interesting collection of memories that we're continuously reorganizing, shining up certain displays while tucking others into the back room. We invest hours roaming these corridors of what once was, either wishing we could go back or frantically attempting to edit the displays. But our most advanced avoidance tool is what I'd call the somewhere else condition. This happens when you're physically located in one spot, but your mind is camped out in another. You're cleaning dishes, but your thoughts are on tomorrow's appointment. You're having a discussion, but mentally practicing your next comment. You're strolling through a gorgeous park, but browsing through pictures of other people's parks on your little bright screen. It's like we've built up a serious distrust of the plain, undecorated present moment, as if being completely here with all its unfiltered realness might somehow not be enough or possibly even threatening. But have you ever thought that maybe this non-stop escape, this ongoing mental journey through time, isn't evidence of a developed brain, but actually a strange type of insanity, a shared delusion that we've accepted as normal? The brain's capacity to prepare for what's ahead and gain wisdom from what's behind is certainly an incredible advantage. But when it turns into a dependency, when we lose the ability to simply exist where we are, then this advantage transforms into a quiet burden. We turn into someone so fixated on studying maps that they never actually embark on the trip. Now, here's an entertaining contradiction for you. The active quest for mindfulness frequently turns into just another method of dodging being mindful. Isn't that interesting? We learn about this wonderful condition called mindfulness, and right away our achievement-focused brains spring into action. We picture ourselves transforming into mindful, peaceful beings surrounded by gentle illumination, untouched by life's annoyances. Ah, we conclude, once I reach this mindfulness state, then I'll truly be remarkable. And so another pursuit begins, another delay of living. You see, the instant mindfulness turns into something to accomplish, we've already abandoned the present moment. We've manufactured another form of the identical old habit. I'm in this place, but I'd rather be in that place. We swap our regular distractions for spiritual distractions, which is kind of like rearranging the decorations while maintaining the same old dwelling. And isn't it strange how we've converted mindfulness into a type of money? I completed 20 minutes of mindfulness this morning, as if being present could be counted and stored up like cash in an account. As if you could stockpile enough mindful moments to someday buy some ultimate reward called enlightenment. The searching mind is remarkably smart. It can convert anything, even lessons about not searching, into something worth pursuing. It can change the deepest revelations about being present into plans focused on the future. I'm not mindful enough right now, but eventually I will be. And with that idea, the present moment gets pushed aside once more, delayed for some dreamed up future condition. But what if mindfulness isn't something you perform or attain whatsoever? What if it's not a unique state to step into, but just the awareness of what's already happening? Not something added to your experience, but the stripping away of your usual avoidance of experience. The puzzle falls apart the instant you understand there's nowhere to travel, nothing to reach. You're already right here. You've been here the whole time. Mindfulness is just recognizing that reality. Have you ever noticed that the more desperately you try to hold on to something, the more it slips through your fingers, like trying to grasp water? The tighter you squeeze, the less you have. That's not a coincidence, you see. That's the universe trying to tell you something rather important. Have you ever truly stopped? I don't mean reduced your pace or taken a pause. I mean genuinely halted this constant pursuit of the next instant, the next encounter, the next accomplishment. What occurs in that empty space? Most people are scared to discover it. We've talked ourselves into believing that if we're not perpetually advancing forward, whatever that actually means, we'll somehow lag behind or lose opportunities or simply stop existing. Our whole financial and cultural system is built on this restless push toward more, better, different. But sometimes, maybe during an instant of surprising beauty, or in the middle of deep suffering, or occasionally for no clear reason whatsoever, the pursuit ends. And in that ending, something amazing gets uncovered. When you genuinely stop chasing what's coming, you might realize that there's a roominess to the present that was previously concealed by all your rushing. It's like you've been living in a home for decades, racing from space to space, never realizing that past the walls extends an endless sky. You might uncover that many of your assumed necessities were really just routine desires, spinning tales about what needs to occur next for you to be fine. And in their disappearance, there's an interesting adequacy to what exists. You might notice that much of what you label me was really just this motion of chasing, this endless grasping for what's ahead. And without it, who are you actually? Not smaller than you were previously, but strangely much larger. Or maybe neither larger nor smaller, but just what you've been all along underneath all that frantic activity. When the pursuit ends, time shifts its nature. It's no longer something to be controlled, or a foe to be fought, but just the revealing of what is. Yesterday's concerns and tomorrow's fears release their hold, not because you've conquered them, but because you've quit feeding them with your focus. This doesn't suggest you stop acting in the world, actually the opposite. When you're no longer perpetually running into mental fantasies of past and future, your actions in the present turn more immediate, more suitable, more vibrant. Have you ever sat beside the sea and just observed its motion? The endless dance of waves climbing and dropping, breaking and pulling back. Our minds work remarkably the same way, don't they? Thoughts and emotions perpetually in flux. One wave of consciousness followed by the next and the next. Most of the time, we are totally fused with this motion. We become the waves climbing in joy, breaking in frustration, pulling back in grief up and down, up and down. A continuous pattern of reactions that we believe to be our identity. But sometimes, maybe while sitting in stillness, or during an instant of complete focus in nature, or in the gap between thoughts, we catch sight of something different. We recognize that under all this surface commotion, there's an enormous depth that stays unaffected by the waves. It's not that the waves halt. The ocean's nature is to create waves, just as the mind's nature is to create thoughts. But there's an understanding that you aren't just the waving, you're also the depth, the quietness that contains all this motion. This quietness isn't something you have to manufacture or accomplish. It's already present like the ocean's depths that stay peaceful even when tempests rage above. It's not movement's opposite, but its actual setting, the room in which all motion occurs. And interestingly, when you recognize this quietness, when you quit identifying only with the waves and sense the depth that represents your genuine nature, even the surface commotion starts to shift its quality. The waves don't necessarily halt, but they no longer possess the same capacity to sweep you away. There's reduced drama, reduced reactivity, more of a feeling of lightness. You see, the mind's natural condition isn't a blank void or a manufactured silence. It's a breathing stillness, attentive and flexible, yet undisturbed by the appearing and disappearing of thoughts and sensations. It's what Zen teachers point to when they mention your original face before your birth. Not something to reach, but something to recognize, something that's existed here forever. This recognition isn't a single occurrence, but an ongoing remembering, a coming back home to what you've never truly departed from. And each time you come back, the route becomes somewhat more recognizable, somewhat more effortless. You start to rely on the stillness, to settle into it, even during the unavoidable storms of existence. There's something really odd about how we relate to emptiness, isn't there? We go to incredible measures to dodge it. We pack our schedules, our houses, our minds, anything to escape that feeling of space, of nothing occurring, of just existing. But what precisely are we frightened of? What do we picture will occur if we permit ourselves to encounter emptiness? If we quit cramming every instant with distraction and just allow ourselves to be present with what is? I suspect what we're truly frightened of isn't emptiness by itself, but what emptiness could expose. In the lack of continuous doing and consuming and accomplishing, we might need to confront the chance that all those activities weren't really filling anything genuine, that the gap we've been attempting to fill isn't a gap whatsoever, but our natural condition. You see, there's a deep distinction between emptiness as we picture it, some kind of bleak void, a nothingness to dread, and emptiness as it truly is when we're completely present with it. Genuine emptiness isn't a lack, but a fullness, not a deficiency, but a completeness so total that no individual thing can capture it. It's like the emptiness of an open sky. Is the sky empty? In one way, yes. It's not packed with solid things, but this exact emptiness is what permits it to contain everything: clouds, birds, sunshine, darkness. If the sky were already packed with something, it couldn't hold anything additional. Its emptiness represents its ability. Similarly, the emptiness that presence uncovers is not a barren desert, but the rich soil of all potential outcomes. It's the room in which life unfolds. Without it, we would be so packed with ourselves, so crammed with our concepts, judgments, and identities, that nothing fresh could ever arrive. But to uncover this, we need to be ready to quit running, to confront the fear that maybe under all our doing and collecting, there isn't some firm, permanent thing labeled me that we can ultimately grasp and protect. And that fear can be overwhelming because it challenges everything we believe we understand about ourselves. Yet those who have truly stepped into this emptiness, whether through meditation or fortune, or just by wearing out all other choices, describe something very different from what the fear anticipated. Not destruction, but freedom. Not purposelessness, but a purpose so enormous it cannot be held in ideas. Not separation, but a close bond with all of existence. The emptiness that presence uncovers turns out to be not a difficulty to fix, but the answer we've been looking for all along. Most people go through existence totally merged with the river of thoughts flowing through their awareness. I am furious. I am unhappy. I require this. I cannot tolerate that. It's a strange habit, isn't it? We grab these temporary mental happenings and transform them into our actual identity. It's as if you were observing clouds drift across the sky, and instead of viewing them as passing events, you announced, I am that cloud. Now I am that one. Now I am that one. It would be thought of as pretty crazy. Yet this is exactly what we do with our thoughts throughout the day. But sometimes, maybe during meditation or in an instant of surprising insight, we step away from this river. We observe thoughts appearing and vanishing without quickly claiming them as me or mine. We notice anger appearing without transforming into an angry individual. We watch unhappiness without turning into an unhappy individual. This change in viewpoint, from being thoughts to observing thoughts, is subtle yet transformative. It's not that you're pushing down or managing your thoughts, you're just relating to them in a new way. You're understanding that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness in which thoughts show up. It's like the distinction between being trapped in a dream, totally identified with your dream self, and becoming aware within the dream, still going through the dream, but now conscious that you are dreaming. The dream doesn't end, but your connection to it changes entirely. When you're trapped in thoughts, believing they are you, life feels like a chain of compulsions. A thought shows up, I need that, and you quickly chase it. Another thought shows up, I cannot stand this, and you quickly fight it. You're like a puppet with thoughts controlling the strings. But when you understand yourself as the observing awareness, instead of the thoughts themselves, a gap opens up between the appearance of a thought and your reaction to it. There's an instant of choice. You can view the thought for what it actually is, just a thought, not an order, not a fact, not you, and decide whether and how to interact with it. This doesn't mean you turn into some disconnected, emotionless watcher of life. Actually, the opposite. When you're no longer automatically identified with every passing thought, you're able to interact with life more immediately, more genuinely. You can think without being dominated by thinking. You can feel without being drowned by feeling. And in this room of observing, you might recognize something else. That what you genuinely are is neither the thoughts nor some separate watcher of thoughts, but the knowing awareness in which both appear. Not a thing that can be grabbed or explained, but the actual setting of all experience. Have you ever been so totally absorbed in something, maybe creating art or strolling in nature or being intimate, that you briefly forgot yourself? That particular sensation when time appears to expand or shrink or just disappear completely. In those instances, something really remarkable occurs to our typical experience of time. The strict order of past, present, and future, which we usually accept to be the basic framework of reality, suddenly shows itself to be much more flexible, more changeable than we picture. And what triggers this change? Nothing besides the quality of our focus. When focus is split, part of you here, part of you somewhere else, time marches forward in its typical straight path, continuously ticking along. But when focus becomes total, when you're entirely present with whatever is occurring, something puzzling happens. It's not that the clock quits ticking or that the sun stops its path across the sky. The measured time of science keeps going as usual. What shifts is mental time, the sense of a separate self traveling through time, constantly coming from a past and moving toward a future. In total focus, there is no space for this motion of becoming. There is only what is, in all its raw closeness and wholeness. And in the lack of the mental movement from here to there, from now to then, time as we typically experience it vanishes. You see, our typical sense of time is closely connected with our sense of self. The me that exists is always a result of the past, of memory, conditioning, gathered experience. And this me is always stretching toward a future, planning, wishing, worrying. Without this ongoing movement of a separate self from past to future, what stays is just the timeless now. This isn't some mystical condition saved for holy people and wise ones. It's accessible in regular moments of total focus. When you're listening so closely to music that there's no listener, only listening. When you're running so totally that there's no runner, only running. When you are watching a sunset so fully that there's no watcher, only watching. In such instances, life is no longer felt as a story with you as the main character moving from start to finish. Instead, it's recognized as a timeless revealing in which nothing is absent and nothing requires being included. And interestingly, it's in these instances of timelessness that life is most alive, most rich, most genuine, as if time itself were a type of curtain that, when briefly pulled back, shows the glowing reality that was always here, hidden in obvious view. There's a delightful contradiction at the core of mindfulness practice that puzzles our typical way of thinking. We're told that being present is our natural condition, that it's not something we have to reach but just recognize. And yet, for most people, staying present demands enormous effort. So, which is effortless or requiring effort? The answer rather frustratingly appears to be both. You see, our usual patterns of distraction and identification run deeply. They've been strengthened over many years of living. To break these patterns, to create new brain pathways of presence and awareness, does actually demand a certain type of effort. You need to remember over and over to come back to the now. But here's where it gets fascinating. The effort itself is not one of pushing or forcing or achieving. It's more like the effort of releasing, of letting go instead of holding on, of permitting instead of managing. It's like learning to float in water. If you've never floated previously, it can appear impossible. You struggle about trying to remain above the surface, and in your actual effort to float, you sink. But once you find the trick of it, the natural lift floating becomes effortless. The water supports you. In the same manner, presence has its own lift. Awareness naturally supports you when you quit fighting against it. But to find this, you need to make the contradictory effort of non-effort. You need to deliberately give up control, intentionally release the usual grasping of mind. This is what Zen teachers mean when they talk about trying without trying, or doing without doing. It's not that you do nothing, it's that what you do comes from a different source than your typical effortful pushing. It arrives from a place of alignment with what is, instead of resistance to it. And within this lies another contradiction. The more gently you hold this practice, the less you grab at outcomes, the less you convert it into another achievement task, the more naturally it develops. The instant you begin thinking, I must be mindful, I must remain present, you've already departed from presence and formed a new type of mental fight. So the invitation is to make the effort without being captured by the efforting, to aim without grasping at aims, to practice without converting practice into another task of the seeking self. In time, what started as intentional practice slowly becomes more natural, more automatic. The effort doesn't vanish completely, at least not for most people, but it changes into something more like a dance with life instead of a fight against our own minds. Isn't it interesting that the easiest thing, being where you already are, can also be the most challenging? There's nothing complicated about being present. No unique technique to learn, no secret knowledge to gain, just this being here now. And yet for most people it's incredibly difficult. What makes it so challenging? Part of the difficulty exists in the actual simplicity of it. Our minds love complexity. We are attracted to detailed systems, multi-stage approaches, the promise of slow improvement over time. First do this, then do that, and eventually you'll arrive there. The straightforwardness of just being present offers nothing for the thinking mind to hold on to. No feeling of progress, no rewards for achievement. But there's something deeper happening as well. Being entirely present means facing life as it truly is, not as we wish it to be or fear it could be. And life as it truly is includes everything we've been escaping from: uncertainty, change, weakness, the complete range of human emotion. When we're totally here, we can no longer shelter behind our mental constructions about life. We can no longer use thoughts of past and future as protection against the raw closeness of now. We need to face what the Zen tradition names things as it is. And that can be frightening. Not because what's here is naturally horrible, but because we've invested so long avoiding it that we've constructed it in our minds as something we couldn't possibly manage. Like a child certain there's a creature under the bed, we're scared to look straight at what's here, choosing instead the familiar unease of our avoidance methods. But here's the amazing surprise that awaits those who do look straight. What we discover is seldom as scary as what we picture. When we quit running and turn to face what's here, whether it's body pain or emotional upset or even the fear of dying itself, we find a capacity to be with experience that we didn't realize we possessed. It's as if we've been carrying around a heavy bag our entire lives, not understanding we could just set it down. The relief of no longer needing to keep our complicated structures of avoidance is huge. As the Tibetan teacher Chogyam Trungpa expressed it, the bad news is you're dropping through the air. Nothing to grip onto, no safety device. The good news is there's no bottom. So yes, coming back to now is both the easiest and most difficult thing. Easiest because it demands no special circumstances or achievements, just a straight recognition of what already is. Most difficult because it means letting go of our most treasured illusions and protections. But in that actual difficulty exists an invitation to find a freedom and aliveness that no amount of searching could ever deliver. The gateless gate of now is constantly open. The question is not how to step through, but whether we're ready to quit standing outside. Throughout our time together, we've been moving around this mystery of presence, looking at it from various angles, lighting up different sides. But in the end, there's nothing I can share with you about coming back to now that isn't already understood by you at some level. Because the reality is, you've never truly departed from the now. You couldn't if you attempted. All your escapes, all your distractions, all your mental time journeys, they've all been occurring right here in this timeless present moment. Even when you believe you're elsewhere, you're here. Even when you think you're then, you're now. The division we sense from the present isn't a genuine distance, but a type of visual trick made by thought. Like a dog running after its tail, we're chasing something that was never apart from us in the first place. And maybe that's the biggest joke in this whole cosmic game, that what we're looking for with such desperate seriousness has been with us the entire time. That the treasure we picture to be hidden on some faraway beach is really buried right under our feet. The invitation of mindfulness isn't to become something you're not, but to recognize what you already are. Not to arrive at some elevated state in the future, but to meet the beautiful ordinariness of this exact moment. Not to rise above your humanity, but to completely live it. So, let me leave you with this. The next time you catch yourself drifting away from the present, tangled in regrets about yesterday or worries about tomorrow, see if you can greet that movement with kindness instead of criticism. See if you can grin at the mind's usual wandering, like you might grin at a kid who keeps getting sidetracked by sparkly things. And in that grin, in that moment of catching yourself, you may discover that you've already returned to now. Not because you accomplished anything or traveled anywhere, but just because you stopped acting like you were somewhere else. If these words have struck a chord with something within you, maybe it wasn't anything fresh that you heard, but just a remembering of what you've always understood. Share these thoughts if you feel moved to, or don't keep them to yourself as a personal dialogue between you and the mystery of your own awareness. But remember this, no one can wake up for you. No one can be present for you. That's something each person must find in the testing ground of their own direct experience. And in that finding lies not just some abstract spiritual achievement, but the actual art of living itself, of greeting each moment not as a stepping stone to something else, but as the incredible miracle that it already is. The present moment isn't waiting for you to get better at meditation. It's not demanding that you clear your mind or reach some special state. It's here, right now, in all its messy, beautiful, ordinary glory, in the sound of your breathing, in the sensation of your body sitting or standing, in the thoughts flowing through like clouds across the sky. Every single instant is a fresh invitation, not to become enlightened, not to transcend anything, just to be here, fully, completely, without reservation. And perhaps the deepest secret is this. The struggle to be present is itself just another thought appearing in presence. The worry that you're not mindful enough is itself happening in the now. Even your resistance to what is, that too is part of what is. So there's truly nothing to fix, nowhere to arrive, no better version of yourself waiting in some imagined future. There's just this breath, this sound, this sensation, this thought, this life unfolding exactly as it is, in the only place it ever could, right here, right now. The question was never, How do I get to the present moment? The question was always, can I notice that I've never left? And in that noticing, everything changes. Not because anything actually changed, but because you stopped believing in the illusion of separation. You stopped treating the present as some destination and recognized it as the ever present ground of your being. This isn't the end of practice. If anything, it's the beginning. Because once you taste this recognition, once you glimpse the freedom of simply being here, you'll find yourself naturally returning to it. Not out of obligation or discipline, but because it's the most natural thing in the world, like water flowing downhill, like breathing. So here's my final invitation. Stop trying to arrive. You're already home. Stop trying to become mindful. You're already the awareness in which everything appears. Stop postponing your life until some future moment when conditions are perfect. This is it. This is the life you've been waiting for. And it's been waiting for you too patiently. In every moment you looked away, but it never left. It never could, because the present moment and you are not two separate things. You are the present moment recognizing itself. So welcome home, not to some new place, but to where you've always been, to the eternal now that holds all of life in its embrace, to the simple, extraordinary fact of being alive, awake, and aware, right here, right now. If you found value in this exploration, consider sharing it with others who might be ready to hear it. And if you want to dive deeper into these ideas, there are countless paths and practices available. But remember, they're all just fingers pointing at the moon. Don't mistake the finger for the moon itself. The real teaching happens in the silence between these words, in the space of your own direct experience, in the moments when you forget to be anywhere other than exactly where you are. That's where the magic lives. That's where life actually happens. Not in concepts or ideas or even in beautifully crafted words about presence, but in the raw, immediate, undeniable reality of now. So go forth, or rather, stay right here and discover what's always been waiting for you in the only moment that ever exists. This moment. Now.